Joining me in studio to discuss this and further is Professor Pikita Ntuli, who is an African historian. Shira Kala joins us in studio as well. She's a former Wits SRC president and other Fees Must Fall leader. Stembi Sundlovu will be joining us as well, Secretary General for South African Union of Students. He'll be joining us on the phone line. Thank you so much for joining us here on Prime. Certainly appreciate you being here. Perhaps we'll start with Shira. The General Assembly didn't work out today. There's allegations of a lack of acting in faith, with the students saying we had reached a consensus, and then we have the Vice Chancellor Adam Habib saying we didn't reach a consensus. What is happening there?
So I think from the very beginning of the mediation process, it was very clear that this was an attempt to get the university united by a common denominator, which was free, decolonized, and quality education. And what we were very proud of is that from last year, and you'd remember that in October last year, the Fees Must Fall protest started, we had said that we want the university to host a university assembly. And we had agreed, and they had signed an agreement to host one. And on Monday, when we were supposed to have it, they had not come. We chanted, "Council come down, council come down," and none of them pitched. And now, a year later, we are in the same position, where the university actually is refusing to meet us and intellectually debate around the issues that we've been raising, not yesterday, not today, but for a very long time. So you can understand the frustration from our side, but regardless of the university acting in bad faith, we sat at the university assembly and we discussed our issues, and we came to some very, very enlightening and beautiful moments in the assembly where we proved the VC wrong when he said that we are a bunch of rowdy students who he does not trust to behave and to actually act in good faith in the assembly, when actually he was the one who was being a real, coward in the situation, to not actually come to the table and to not want to discuss the issues, and to not, for 3 weeks now, he has not come. He's become the phantom of its university. I don't think we can call him the Vice Chancellor.
And I think that's one of the issues that is frustrating you as students, because you say you keep speaking to the media, but he's not addressing you as the students. And speaking of the body of students, it appears there has been some divisions amongst yourselves. And, you have now the Take Wits Back protesters and the hashtag Fees Must Fall protesters, with the other group feeling that, you are infringing on their rights, because when they're trying to protest and get their voice heard, and I'm talking of the Take the Wits Back protesters, they felt that, the Fees Must Fall people were infringing on their rights and wouldn't allow for their voices to be heard. Isn't that a bit hypocritical on your side?
I do think that the Take Wits Back protesters did host a very irrelevant protest. There were a couple of students there, and they said what they had to, and they had their banners up, and there were no violent disruptions or anything from our side. What there was a clear stance to say that actually we've never seen these students involved before. They say that they agree with us in principle, but they've never come to Solomon Mahlangu House. They've never discussed with us why they disagree with the process in which we're taking. And they've clearly said that they agree, but they don't agree with pausing the academic program. Now, if they had come to us and discussed with us, which we welcome them to do, we would have explained to them the strategy behind suspending the academic program until our demand is met. We are not in a normal situation here, and to just go back to class without having anything solid on the table with regards to this demand would be selling ourselves short. Amilcar Cabral says, "Tell no lies and claim no easy victories." To get to this point was not easy, and these people were never really involved in that process.
But why do you feel they owe you an explanation if they're holding their own protest? Certainly it is their right.
No, it is their right, and we've never said that they can't hold their own protest. But for them to say that we haven't wanted to engage with them is disingenuous, because they've never come to us and spoken to us inside Solomon Mahlangu House. They've never engaged with us to say that, look, we think that we need to change tactics. And if they did, we would have engaged with them and explained to them why that is not possible at this point. But we've not seen any real commitment from their side to say that we agree with your demands, although they say it very freely in the media, to say that we agree with free education, but we want to go back to class. I think they clearly need to understand the political situation that we're in, and that we've been brutalized by private security, we've been beaten by police, we've been arrested unlawfully. And to have tolerated all of this when the Vice Chancellor still hasn't come down to speak to us, and then to expect us to just go back to class, That is an unreasonable situation. That is really difficult to do. You can't just retreat to normalcy in an abnormal reality.
Right, let's get Professor Ntuli into the conversation. It appears there's also racial undertones with this protest that we have seen, especially with the hashtag Take Wits Back protesters, with the hashtag Fees Must Fall protesters. Gosh, there's a lot of hashtags going on here. Feeling that they're all about taking Wits back to the white people. Those are some of the sentiments that we have been getting from this part of the students that are protesting. You know, just given the history of our country and apartheid, do you think there's some simmering elements that are coming to the fore now?
I don't kind of quite think so. What worried me a bit was that me and Bishop Sioka approached this take back to say, we needed to talk to you. We have spoken to all stakeholders. We need to talk to you so that we can explain to you and put the whole thing in context. So we kept on postponing the meeting and the meeting and the meeting, and then ultimately the meeting did not actually happen. And in my dealing with the students have been open to talk to anybody who was willing to to talk to them, to engage. That's what the students always been saying, that we are here at the university, we are young intellectuals, we want to engage. So they wanted to engage, so we wanted to facilitate that it is, but those ones on the others, for some reason or the other, we were not able to do so. They tried to get hold of me. By the time they got hold of me, I was already too tired and at home.
Let's get our other panelist who's on the phone line into the conversation. Stembiso Ndlovu is the Secretary General of South African Union of Students. Thank you so much for joining us. We certainly appreciate it. Now, your organization has accused President Zuma and the government of being arrogant and not prioritizing the issue of the students and, prioritizing other issues that have to do with the country while the university issues are still hung. How do you come up with this conclusion?
No. I think that we need to put issues to perspective, that we cannot allow Professor Adam Abib to subject students of Wits to some useless polls, and we fully support students of Wits. And we supported the assembly of today that Abib boycotted as per the report from our SRCs. Therefore, what we're saying is that Professor Abib must come and resolve students of Wits.
Right. President Jacob Zuma was involved in one of these commissions to do with the Fees Must Fall protest. I understand it was actually disrupted by some of the students. Going forward, obviously there's a need for the communication structures to be a bit clear. You know, how do we make sure this is done?
I can't hear you properly.
I think we have a bad line there. We'll have to try and repatch you. That's Stembiso Ndlovu there from South. Coming back into studio, there was a meeting that was held by HEPID between Dr. Cassius Lubisi, who was the Director General in the Presidency, requesting a meeting for the Multi-Stakeholders Conference on behalf of the protesting students. Do you have any idea what came out of that meeting?
No, actually I don't. But what I do want to really emphasize around the Take Back Wits students is that there's this perception that Professor Adam Habib has created, that this is the silent majority. And I think that nothing can be further from the truth. The silent majority that we represent as students are the most marginalized, not just in the university, but in the country. And we speak about the forgotten youth, those who do not even have a chance at entering these Anglo-Saxon ivory towers that our universities in South Africa unfortunately are. And that's why when we speak about decolonization, we speak about it very frankly and very broadly. And that means that we want to look at the education system from primary school to higher education, to say that this is clearly not working. This is a fractured system. And all we are asking from our vice-chancellors is that they have been complaining about the government and about the system for so long and blaming every small issue inside the university on the government. But now when they have a chance to take a clear stand with us and to say, let's hold the government accountable, let's also hold yourselves accountable for being gatekeepers of an unjust system, they have clearly not shown leadership. And so I think it's very difficult for us at this point to talk about moving anywhere if we have leaders who are proving to be completely visionless. I mean, we can talk about a solution for free education, we can talk about how students at Wits have come up with one, and we can talk about how we managed to somehow have a discussion that was productive with every other stakeholder, but the Vice-Chancellor was still not there. And I think that as students, we are tired of this situation.
Have you lost confidence in your Vice-Chancellor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is not new. The same thing happened last year with Professor Adam Habib and other vice-chancellors at other universities. So we've given them a clear chance to take a stand, to take a stance on the right side of history, and they've clearly let go of that chance. So what we are saying now as young people is that we have many options on the table, but the ball is in their court. They need to come to the table. They need to say that, look, we've identified that this is where power lies. The government can make the decisions. We will march with you to the Treasury or to wherever you decide and hold the government accountable
right.
to say that these demands need to be met.
Stembisa Ndlovu is back on the phone line. Stembisa, I do hope that you can hear me. I was asking you about how you have thought that the government and President Zuma has been very arrogant with regards to the issues of the university students. What is your comment on that?
Well, I think it's misplaced that the government is arrogant. I think the government has done enough that they could have done. And all the persons have agreed about the intervention of government. And we need to take our benefit to the private sector now. The private sector must be able to play a private sector needs to play a meaningful role to ensure that they assist the poor and the working class students. And we feel that the violence in our university must stop. And the vets must go back to class, and the professor people must be able to engage with the SRC of vets. I think what is happening at Wits University must come to an end now. And they must start to ensure that negotiations ensue.
Right. This question is for you, Professor Ntuli. Do you think there's a lack of leadership with the requirements of the university students and what they're trying to achieve in their struggle?
No, I mean...
Not necessarily from the students themselves, but from the authorities that they're trying to get answers from.
I mean, the situation is quite a very, very complex one. When you sit with the Vice-Chancellor together with his own people, they are committed to free education. And they say they are very prepared actually to work actually with the students. I understand the university, thing. I was also in charge of a university. The Vice-Chancellor has got to answer, to a council. And the council was also saying to Professor Adam Habib, we are making too many concessions, to the students, where the students shut up until the end of the week in order to do so. But somewhere along the line, you do not know where the break is, because yesterday everything was going well. The students were in there. I was with the students from the time when the meeting started, interrogating the pledge and planning that this is what we have to do. Mm-hmm. The pledge will be in there, that's going to be read by anybody else, but then issues have got to be raised. Then the students said, but before we get into assembly, let us clear the air by calling up an imbizo in order to get the university to commit. There are residencies that have actually been demolished, I think, to be replaced, by, some car park and so on for the university's kind of necessity. And the students wanted to put those things up, the students that have been suspended and those that are not going to write exams. So they said we wanted to clear these things, first, so that we make an understanding. But I still believe that it is all not, lost. A genuine engagement. I think a genuine engagement with the students and the university to leave maybe the Vice-Chancellor to negotiate with the students and let council sit down a little bit, maybe away, then the parties can actually find themselves, because if at all we actually don't do that, we are getting up into a very intractable position.
Shaira, is all lost? Are you worried about the academic year going to waste?
We're all students, so we all want to go back to class. We all want to write exams. And this is the problem with viewing us in the way that Adam Habib has made us seem in the media. He has made us seem unreasonable. We are very reasonable. We have sat in meetings with the mediators till 3 o'clock in the morning. We have sat for 8 hours in a meeting with students.
What are you hoping to achieve on the Sunday meeting that you're going to have as we wrap this up? What are you hoping to achieve going forward?
So I think what we want as young people is to have a national summit, to have a national strategy around going to government together with our vice-chancellors and using Professor Adam Habib as the chair of higher education South Africa and getting them to come with us and join us on the picket lines. Many of them flaunt their struggle credentials. Well, if they have struggle credentials, they need to start putting them to use now, because they cannot continuously be the spokespeople of Blade Nzimande. It needs to be made clear that they cannot sit on the fence any longer. They need to take a stand on the right side of history with us.
Right. Shira, Professor Ntuli, thank you so much for your time. Unfortunately, that's all the time we had. We certainly appreciate it. Professor Pikita Ntuli, African historian, and Shira Kala, former Wits SRC president and FIS must-fall leader. Also on the phone line who joined us earlier, Stembiso Ndlovu, Secretary General for South African Union of Students. We have to leave it there for now.